Welcome to the 12 Days of Edition Wars, featuring 2nd edition AD&D players and DM's option books. In this special series, we are taking a close look at these books that are often considered D&D 2.5 edition. On the 3rd day of Edition Wars, my DM gave to me Skills and Powers Part 3, Kits, and then all the other stuff in the book. Brandis,
Yeah, man.
how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Me too. What do you have to say about kits?
Kits started showing up in the complete handbook series for all the classes, and they didn't, I think, like how they were shaping up because they worked so differently for so many classes.
Mm-hmm.
You have the complete fighters, wizards, priests, and thieves handbooks, and they all kind of work this one way. They're very limited. They're very social pillar, maybe some exploration pillar. A couple of the kits are going to be more combat side, but for the most part, not. And they're going to be very, very cultural. And then you get into later books like Complete Paladins and Complete Rangers, and the weirdness and the just level of individuation and such really, really scales up sharply. So that you wind up with like a paladin kit about worm slaying. Well, that's obviously rad, and I want to play that.
Yes, me too. We could have a whole party of paladin worm slayers because everybody's going to want to do that.
Yeah, I'm down for that campaign, man. I played a bunch of Pendragon. Let's do it. Let's do it. It's great. But that's sort of not the game that D&D is selling.
Yeah.
And it doesn't fit well sort of conceptually against what's special about your fighter. Well, my fighter is an Amazon or a Myrmidon or whatever.
Right.
It's a very different conceptual scale, and so they wanted to put everyone on the same schema for kits, and that's what they do in this book. There's a very limited set of kits, and all or most classes pull from them. And if you sit down and read it, it is this sort of blend of 5th edition backgrounds and subclasses, heavily tilted toward backgrounds, and that's kind of interesting.
Right. So just for the audience who may not have a ton of experience with kits in 2nd edition, they instituted what they call the social ranks system. And so they have everyone determine their social rank, and it tells you about basically what you have access to in terms of social graces, and whether you're seen as a vagabond, homeless person, laborer who's unskilled, or whether you're seen as a member of a noble family, a giant landowner, things like that. But then they have these kits, and so let me I'm not going to talk a ton about these, but let me just read some of these. Okay, there's an acrobat. That's performers of amazing feats. There's the Amazon. So amazing rulers, right? You get weapon proficiencies and all this kind of stuff. Then there's Animal Master, Assassin, Barbarian, Beggar, Cavalier, Diplomat, Explorer. Now we're getting into the ones that sound a little more like 5th edition kind of things. And then the Jester, and a Merchant, and a Mariner, and a Mystic, and a Noble, and a Peasant Hero, and an Outlaw. You can see sort of, actually, when you read through these, you definitely see the DNA that made it all the way through the line over to 5th edition. Because some of these it's very, very similar to how they instilled backgrounds into 5th edition.
Yeah, you really do. And I mean, some of them are really, really on the nose. I mean, Peasant Hero is folk
right.
hero.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea.
Exactly.
And I love that. Some of the implementation here, though, is real janky.
Oh, sure. Yes, the
by modern
implementation very,
standards.
very, very well. So here's the thing, though. Is the implementation here? Is it? Sorry for like stepping all over you, but is the
No, we're good.
implementation here? Do you think this weakens? If I was to pick up one of the brown cover, the faux leather cover books, the class books with the kits in it, is this better or worse than those? If I'm the player.
Mm, mm. So that's so I am gonna say that it is largely a wash, slightly tilted in favor of player's option, just because things are a little less broken, but just the additional ability score requirements and some of the armor wearing hindrances and things like that. Just I think they really say odd things about how the game was expected to be played, um, and I sort of can't get over that. Like Acrobat goes way out of its way to try to limit the armor you're going to wear um, in second edition D&D, which doesn't really want to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sort of ugly because the thief class goes so far out of its way to say, well, don't wear chainmail. Well, okay, except Elven Chain, which is totally rad. You should wear that
Right.
if you ever get the chance. Well, this leaves that out, and that is sort of an unfortunate choice. I'm being really picky here. It's just the rules are really picky. If you look back at the second edition Thief class write-up, it's really exacting about small bonuses and penalties for no armor, leather armor, studded leather armor, elven chain, right? And so that sort of doesn't get carried forward here in the right way, is what I guess I want to say. And so there's a lot of recommended or bonus, non-weapon proficiencies. It's a big thing, and then a lot of the hindrances are penalties or reaction rolls with this or that kind of person. I mean, sure, you say that it's the lower classes who are getting sneered at, and the upper classes who are getting preferment. I hear that we can see which subclasses are the proletariat, which are preparing to rise up, and which are the bourgeoisie who are going to be thrown down.
Right.
Whichever, whatever you want to read it.
Right. Well, but then you have a kit like the Scholar, for example, who the social ranks available to a Scholar is either upper middle class or upper class.
Well, sure, but those are students who are
but wait.
Who are useful for the revolution.
So that's fine. So
maybe this is the wrong podcast. What am I doing?
That sounds like a benefit, right? I don't know, but this sounds like it sounds like a benefit, right? So that's a benefit to the Scholar, and then it says, oh, well, you have to have a minimum intelligence score of 13. Okay, fine, and it tells you, basically this kit is very open. It's open to all standard player character races, as well as some odd ones. But the only sort of one that is not possible is you cannot be a fighter and be a Scholar. Okay, so fine. Then it has weapon proficiencies, and it's so vague. Those that fit with the Scholar's adventuring class. Okay, fine. And then it says recommended non-weapon proficiencies, and it lists like reading and writing, history, languages, heraldry, astrology, astronomy, herbalism. Remember the 2E skill list is like, non-weapon proficiency.
Yeah.
Engineering, gem cutting, religion, spellcraft, brewing, etiquette, musical instrument. Like, it's like, oh, let's just throw some kitchen sink in there. And then it says Scholars have to be prepared to record some interesting new bit of knowledge. So all Scholars must carry quills, ink, scrolls, and a journal or diary. Okay, fine. All right. We still haven't gotten to any really hard and fast mechanical things other than which, social rank they'll have and that they have to have a 13 intelligence. Then we get to recommended traits. artistic ability, keen eyesight, keen hearing, precise memory, and obscure knowledge. And now where there's going to be a bonus. The benefit is the scholar gets a +1 bonus to either intelligence or wisdom checks, the player's choice, including proficiency checks based on intelligence or wisdom. The hindrance is scholars spend so much time reading, theorizing, and studying that they suffer when it comes to physical combat. So they suffer a -1 penalty on their initiative rolls when fighting. That's it.
Sure.
There
Sure.
are no enormous constraints on there. Whereas when you look at, like what you're talking about with the thief and the acrobat and all that, and suddenly they're putting all of these constraints about what armor you can wear and what you could possibly do in that armor and all of that. And here we have the scholar, and it's basically like, as long as you're just not a fighter, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so weird and so biased. It drives me crazy.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I actually, so it's funny, and the reason I asked the question of you the way I did was because as a DM, I like this book better. Because it rounds up everything and it puts them in a nice little package, and they're all formatted the same way, and they all, when you go through them, they feel basically balanced, despite the complaint I just made about the acrobat and the thief and all that. But the thief in second edition, they always have these constraints, so whatever, they basically, these kits feel basically balanced, whereas in the little brown books, or not, in the leatherette books, right, the players books with the kits, some of those are so over the top, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, from the player perspective, I want that, right? Like, I want that because I want the really cool thing. So the players, in fact, my second edition group, they loved the brown books. They hated this one because they felt like this really undercut a lot of the benefits that they were getting from these specialized kits, and that.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely more regulated. Right. It does lack a lot of the style.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, anyone who reads through the complete Bard's Handbook is like, yes, Blade, what's up?
Right.
Sign me up. Let's do it. That's the reaction it wants you to have. Right. Like the text really does all it can to draw you in with that one. And it'd be nice if some of the others were as sort of peppy as that one. But like, what needed to happen was not really a depowering of everything.
Mm-hmm.
They needed to retune everything so that the fighter kits and the thief kits and the priest kits were as engaging as what came in the later books. Right. And like, it's designed over the span of something like 3 or 4 years. So yeah, of course there's changes over that time. Lord knows they repeated that exact pattern with 3.0 and 3.5.
Yes,
and hot tip, 4th edition.
Yep.
With martial power, arcane power, divine power. Like, yeah, that's how it do. That's how design goes as you learn more and more about your system. And you have some sort of cautious ideas at first, and then as things go on, you are tired of cautious ideas. It's really that simple. Yeah. And so that's why it's really important that in 5th edition, all of the subclasses of the Player's Handbook came at the same time. And then you get all the Xanathar's ones, which are more wild and exotic, just right down the line. But they came out very, very much at the same time, like all collectively. Not, here's the fighter ones, and then here's the paladin ones in a later book, right? That just as a way to have the whole thing as a snapshot in time is what it was.
And then you don't end up having to release something later that retcons everything that you did piecemeal in between, right?
Right. Well, I mean, let's put it this way. You're going to have some power creep. Try to keep your power creep even across all classes.
And just in general, try to keep the power creep to a minimum. But the kit books, those complete
Sure.
books for players, did not. They suffered a little bit
Yeah, and
from, oh, that last book was really great. It gave all these really awesome benefits and really cool, interesting things. Now we have to outdo ourselves again.
well, right. And so for me coming along, once all the books were actually out, I was never able to convince myself to buy complete priests, and I think I never bought complete
Mhm.
wizards because the kits were boring.
Yeah,
I read them and they didn't grab my imagination at
right.
all, so I didn't buy them because for me it was all happening at the same
Hmm.
time, and I was sort of thinking, but all these other classes have so much more exciting of
Right.
kits. That's terrible. And so it was just a weird, unbalanced space, right? Um,
Yeah, very interesting. So, what else do you have to say about kits? Do you want to move on?
no, I think I'm about
Yeah.
set on kits. I mean, the most interesting thing now to me in the year of our Lord 2019 is how clear it is that they are cut from so much of the same cloth as
Hmm.
subclasses, and how much that feels like what was missing um, to me now, looking back on third edition and in different ways
Hmm.
fourth edition.
Hmm.
Um, I just think that's really interesting. Um,
Yeah, it is interesting. I feel like it's funny because the presentation was a little bit hamstrung in second edition because it already grouped the classes, right? So it made it feel
yeah,
like, okay, well, here's the warriors, and then you've got your subclass of fighter, ranger, whatever, whatever, right? So it already
right,
had this
yeah,
sort of subclass system kind of placed upon it, and then slotting the kits in within those made it feel more complex maybe than say a fifth edition subclass, right? Fifth edition subclass
yep,
it just feels like, oh yeah, every class has subclasses, and that's just your way to specialize, and they're built right into the system. Whereas here it's like it's laying on top of the system where they already had a separation and a subclass kind of distribution, and so you know
yeah, and that kind of big rules graft almost never
right,
goes
yeah,
well. It's hard to think of a time when that's actually gone along smoothly and just been
yeah,
fine. Um, so yeah, I think I'm ready to move on to non-weapon
okay.
proficiencies, which I'm no more able to reliably say now than when we covered skills. I just want you to know I haven't improved in this regard. Um,
Oh,
but ultimately, the only thing that's really changed here is that instead of a variable number of slots, things cost a variable number of
right.
points. And so you get a small package of character points at the start of play, and that is the thing that grows level over level. So you get your character points plus your intelligence, um, plus something from your intelligence. Uh,
Uh,
it's got to do with your number of
yeah,
languages, I'm
I'm
sure.
sure.
Um, but you spend those on these non-weapon proficiencies, and if you have points left over from class building, which don't do that, you can buy more of these skills, um, and it is at least basically the player's handbook list. I'm not scouring the whole list to make sure, but
Yeah, I didn't do a one-to-one comparison, but if I'm remembering correctly, it's pretty
right.
close.
Oh, right. But the other big thing, that's what it is. The other big thing is that um, it drops the you know your ability score plus or minus a thing, right? And instead, it has an initial rating.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Um, and so that's actually a big reversion to Unearthed Arcana from first edition, where I think it's Unearthed Arcana and maybe also Oriental Adventures, where skills have an initial rating rather than being directly rigged off of your ability scores.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so you have this initial rating that you can improve with additional character points.
You can tell how I feel about this.
Oh, dude, it's messy. I'm not trying to sell anyone on it. Lord knows.
and some of the things, with
just,
the initial ratings that you start out with, just they're not all the same, right? And
Oh, but that's lovely. So I'm not sure if you're looking at different printing or whatever, but on my page 89, there's table 44, ability modifiers to proficiency scores, and nothing that I've seen yet in this book presages third edition quite as closely as this table, because if your ability or sub-ability is 3, you have a -5, and it runs up to 18 plus is a +5. Well, friends, the numbers are a little bit different because it has 8 to 13 as no modifier, but friends, this is showing us what the ability score chart of 3.0 is going to look like, and that's going to forever dominate the destiny of D&D thereafter. This is just a little window into someone having a big idea and realizing that they needed to drag their whole skill engine into some kind of standardization of usability.
And do you know what did
scalability.
that? The fact that they made none of these initial ratings make any sense.
Oh God, no!
They're all so
no.
weird, and they start at different ratings, and there's really no rhyme or reason. At least looking at it now, there's really doesn't feel like there's a rhyme or reason to any of these. And I mean, yeah. And so I guess, my point is though, a way to make that easier is when you're designing third edition, you ignore that rating crap and you say, but look, this table of ability modifiers actually can be a unifying thing. We can make this work across the board.
Right. The whole engine is definitely not here, but I do think that someone had a big idea and started to see it forward. But other than that, this is very similar to what we've seen before. Each of these non-weapon proficiencies is still fundamentally a microfeat. It's permission to do a thing. Most of them are outside of the combat pillar. They're much more social or exploration or crafting. There's sort of this crypto crafting engine going on here. It doesn't work really well. At one point, I dug through the Complete Fighter's Handbook to really try to come to grips with the weaponsmithing rules in there, and I had to buy a new computer because I skeeted blood from the eyes all over mine. So that was very sad.
Yeah.
It was a sad
you know
day.
what else they do in here though too? They add this concept of traits. And
I'm so excited about talking about this because this to me, so these pages to me are the ones that prove that they were getting pretty nervous about this White Wolf thing, and this is what they thought they could lift from White Wolf. And obviously, I haven't talked to any of the good folks who wrote this text.
We have no special knowledge. We're just talking about from a fan perspective. Yeah, of course. But yeah, I mean, so the traits that let me read some of the traits for the audience: allure, artistic ability, empathy, keen senses, keen smell, keen eyesight, keen hearing, light sleeper, and precise memory. I mean, so like some of these are very D&D, and some of them like climate sense and you know internal compass, like those things are not D&D ish. And I think you're right. I think they were
Yeah,
getting a little scared of White
definitely less
Wolf.
so. And it's funny to me. This set of two charts of here they're called traits and disadvantages. Other games we call them advantages and disadvantages. This like I come from a whole lineage of LARPs where this is the most familiar thing in the world at character creation. Like you have on facing pages, here's your list of advantages, here's your list of disadvantages, and here are the number of points you can spend on each of them. And I don't know that this book was influencing them. I think they were coming more from the White Wolf side because they were literally designed by the same people. But it's really interesting to see this here in D&D, and not really surviving, because these things are also going to sort of become feats and sort of not.
I mean, I guess the thing I have to say about that is if I'm being generous and I'm giving them the extreme benefit of the doubt, I would say they added this because they actually like the ideas that were presented by some of their competition, and that
For sure.
they really thought, well, maybe we could incorporate that. Maybe we should incorporate this sort of thing into the game, because maybe that's part of what makes these other games that are our competitors so popular right now. But that's almost also so there was my generous reading, right? But then there's the non-generous, but that completely goes against how D&D worked at the time.
And it also completely misunderstands what the fans of those games liked about those games.
Right? Like it's right. It's taking one thing and saying, well, maybe if we port this over and put it in D&D, it'll pull that crowd in, because maybe they're closet D&D fans, and just if we just have this thing laying on the system that kind of sort of feels and sounds like this other stuff, maybe they'll come over and they'll stay with D&D again. And I mean, that's also a very non-generous reading. I don't think they sat around and actually had that conversation necessarily, but there was some like, well, what could we put in a disadvantages table? And and I mean, I'm sure they said, well, hey, let's look at some other games that do have these disadvantages, and hence you get this list.
Yep. It's so true. I mean, it isn't a direction I would want to see the game go now. It's not something. It's not a return I look to, really at all. But it's an interesting moment in D&D, and it's interesting to imagine what would have happened if the whole point buy structure had become essential to D&D in third edition and later.
Yeah.
But would it ever not? And then you have disadvantages, which we sort of referenced but didn't get into. I mean, these are brutal. I
mean,
I have all kinds of design opinions about things like getting paid character points in exchange for buying something called Powerful Enemy or Hunted Wanted. That is not a punishment. That is the game paying you in exchange for plot attention.
Right.
I'm just going to say that. Many is the game that has learned that to its detriment.
Well, but then there's ones like the phobias where it is a punishment, right? Where
it is a punishment, but is it a punishment for the player or is it a punishment for the party?
Well, and that's the thing, right? So just in terms of mechanics, the way the phobia works is, let me find it here. So it says you have this phobia, and the character who's constantly afraid of one particular thing or category of things can have a real problem while adventuring. The phobia disadvantages are worth varying degrees of character points based on the frequency, blah, 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 blah. So you can have a moderate or severe, phobia. It says the effects are generally the same between moderate and severe. If the character is threatened by a violent encounter with the object of the phobia, they have to roll a wisdom/willpower check. Because remember, a couple episodes ago, we talked about that whole wisdom willpower thing.
Yep.
If the phobia is severe. If the check is successful, the character can function normally. But if the check fails, they have to flee or otherwise seek to avoid the encounter for 1 to 6 rounds. After this time, it doesn't end and they get to come back. They have to check again. And if they fail again, another 1 to 6 rounds. And so basically it says the DM can modify this check for a phobic character. Someone who hates enclosed spaces but is being pursued by a dragon, for example, might overcome the phobia in favor of saving their life. Perhaps they get a +5 modifier to the check, etc., etc. But here's the list of phobias. You can have a phobia from crowds, darkness, enclosed spaces, heights, magic, monsters, snakes, spiders, undead, water. That's it. Water. A powerful enemy is a different category. So, okay, you're afraid of the dark. Every time you're outside with your party, you got to roll, and if you get afraid, you run away for 6 rounds.
Yeah. Well, just I'm just gonna say, darkness and enclosed spaces and magic and monsters is a pretty good summary of the campaign.
Right. Yes.
I don't know if you read the title on that front cover, but I would not buy those. That is just some advice for your old Uncle Brandis. Do not buy those.
I just feel like the game is so different if you're actually doing that by the rules, right? So, I mean, more modern sensibilities might say, look, if you're playing D&D and you want your character to have a phobia, then you just act like your character has a phobia, right? You don't necessarily punish the entire party.
Right, and you don't necessarily hang a bunch of mechanics on it so the character can't dramatically overcome it or grow out of it at an appropriate time. Here it's, well, I guess the dice decide whether or not we have a party wipe. Right. This is gonna be real fun.
And you run into the other situation that actually 5th edition also has, which is, madness tables and whatnot. Is it really appropriate to use a madness table on a PC? You need to make sure that your players are okay with having a bout of madness forced upon them and having to role play that.
I mean that's definitely a thing in 5th. It's an optional rule for very good reason. But it's also rules that they're touching on and playing with a little bit more these days. I think there's a little bit more of a suggestion that you might want to consider looking over here and using these rules in the DMG. Yes, we know you haven't read the DMG. It's fine.
That's a different episode, Brandis.
Well, that is a callback. That is a favor I'm doing Dan Dillon. Just personally here on the air.
He was quite shocked that nobody reads the DMG. Anyway.
Yeah.
So you could see these sort of mechanics in the 2nd edition here, and look, I think that if a group decides they want to play a game a particular way and they're having fun, hey, who am I to judge that? I'm not saying this is absolutely wrong, bad, wrong, fun. You're not doing it right. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying this sort of mechanic, it's really easy for it to sort of slide over into the unfun realm, and you just got to make sure you're having fun. And I think partly that's the reason why this stuff didn't stick around very long.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with that. There's always going to be some kind of supplement, especially once there's an open gaming license, God help you, where someone brings it back in one way or another, right? And there are groups where it feels more okay, and there are definitely people who are looking to bring some of that squamous goodness into their games and make some Lovecraft happen. And that's how it comes across in Lovecraftian games. You have a bout of madness, you see something horrible, and you just lose it. Well, okay.
Right. But to be fair, the expectation is set at the beginning, right? Nobody comes to the table to play Call of Cthulhu and says, I'm going to be perfectly sane for this entire game. I have a problem with mimicking insanity in the game, and I don't, so I'm just going to play as though I'm never insane. Then you're not playing. You don't play Call of Cthulhu, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That's a very controversial area.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not trying to say absolutely there's a rule you cannot do this or you must do this. That's actually my point. Is basically these books are optional, right? And so if these books are optional, we're sort of looking with 20 years of we're looking 20 years later and saying, I guess almost 30 years now, but we're saying, well, what was going on at the time? Well, here are these optional rules. Some of them were obviously used and optioned quite often, and some were not.
Yeah, and I mean, man, some of the optional rules that you can dig up in second edition, in particular, are straight up horrifying.
Right.
I don't want to get off on a tangent here, he says, which is a way to say this is what we do in this show.
That's the cue. I'm going to get off on a tangent, even if I don't want to. Sit down and buckle your seatbelt.
But I forget where it is exactly. I want to say it's in some fairly obscure second edition Forgotten Realms material, but there are a lot of sexualities that are treated as mental disorders, and it's just this was a real bad look at the time, because I remember being of an age to read that content, and that was a bad look then, and it got a lot worse over the years. It went from no to I don't really want to tell people I know about this book, because oof. Sort of like, can we put this in the vault right next to Song of the South? just gonna say that, too much. I don't know. But anyway, I think we can probably move on to chapter 7, unless you have anything else you want to say.
No, I'm good with moving on. I think my feelings are pretty clear about the traits and disadvantages.
Yeah, man. It's not the direction that we went with, though a lot of those things do specifically show up as feats.
For sure, yes. Yes, they do.
So chapter 7 is weapon proficiency and mastery. So Sam, do you want to take us through this one?
Not particularly.
Okay, that's fine. I gotcha.
I mean, it feels very similar to the non-weapon proficiencies, but has a lot more direct mechanical combat issues with it. So anyway,
right. So there are a bunch of different types of weapons and weapon groups to buy proficiency with, and then there's a bunch of just not necessary modifiers for non-proficiency as opposed to familiarity, as opposed to full proficiency. And if you just want to see how many times I can say that word before it doesn't mean anything in my head anymore, we're getting pretty close. And then there's all the different sizes of shields, and that's fairly standard. Then you get into fighting styles, and you can specialize in fighting styles for more bonuses. and this is just part of the fighter class in 5th edition. Like, this maps forward very well, though the one-handed weapon fighting style listed here is exactly why people misread the dueling fighting style the first time they read it in the fighter class. Because here, you do have to have an empty offhand, unlike the dueling fighting style in 5th edition. There's also your weapon and shield style. Here it is improving either your AC or your attack roll, depending on whether you want to use your shield defensively or offensively. And bothering to support offensive shield use is an interesting move, since it's not functionally a shield bash, but it's neat. And it references that there are more detailed shield rules in combat and tactics. And so this goes on for several more styles, and that's all very nice. And there's little bonuses to go with all of them. And then we get to some ranks of weapon mastery.
Well, wait, can we go back one? I do just want to mention horse archery.
Sure.
You can now shoot with good accuracy while mounted.
That's okay. So look, I have opinions about this stuff. I have so many opinions about horse archery. And if you'd asked me a few years ago, I would have let this go with not much of a comment. And then I read The Grand Strategy of the Byzantine Empire by Edward Lutwak, and now, by God, I have opinions, and they are based on exactly that book and not much else.
Well, please do share your opinions about horse archery.
Oh, I will.
By the way, audience, this was not planned. I did not know that my esteemed co-host had such strong opinions about horse archery.
So the book is about military strategy and statecraft in the Byzantine Empire. It picks up around 476 and runs through the end of the empire, and it explains how the Byzantines had this huge deficit in mounted archery compared to the many, many, many tribes of Turkic peoples that they were fighting, and also the Parthians and so on, that they were fighting on every front. And so they just got their butts handed to them decade after decade until they figured it out. And so the Byzantine Empire restructured its whole state to support a standing military of armored horse archers that could reasonably compete with the Turkic peoples, who were born in the saddle and did this with just their whole lives. And it's this sort of fascinating story of how it sort of runs all the way from Byzantine tax structure through the schedule of a soldier's year and into whether the military would engage in a battle or not, because it was so hard to teach horse archery and keep the skill functional. So the important skill of horse archery is not actually shooting while riding. That's relatively easy to teach. The important skill is shooting backward while riding, the famous Parthian shot, which is where we get the phrase parting shot. That skill is so unbelievably hard to teach that they couldn't send the soldiers home when it wasn't wartime. They'd lose the skill and have to learn it basically from new. And it took a year to get them, a year of just constant drilling to get them back to fighting form. And so they structured the whole empire around these facts. And I think that's fascinating, and I'm still not over how interesting that is to me. So now you've had my little dissertation on that. I won't actually be mad if you cut all of this.
Oh, no way, man. I'm leaving it. It's in there. Well, here's my question then. Don't you think horse archery should be better than just a +2? If the entire Byzantine Empire had to restructure their economy, their training programs, their military strategies.
Well, okay, so this is one fighting style, but it doesn't take into account all of the other character points that the system is asking you to spend on weapon of choice, weapon expertise, weapon specialization, weapon mastery. God help you. Just so many different things to buy and so much to read to understand what you need to do to be as good with your weapon as the law allows. But right, the idea is basically that you're negating some penalty. You have less of a penalty than you otherwise would.
But maybe. But so here's
and that's it. That's all that. That's all fighting style gets you.
But here's what horse archery gets you for this particular one. Okay, so the whole idea is if you specialize in horse archery, then you shoot with accuracy even while mounted. Okay, fine. I got it. The normal penalties for shooting from the saddle are reduced by 2, okay? So let's say that's like a +2, okay? Then it says, so you suffer no penalty, okay, because apparently the penalty is a -2, but now you're not suffering that -2 penalty, right? So you suffer no penalty, but only if the horse is moving up to half its normal speed. And if you are moving faster, now you suffer a -2 penalty, even with the horse archery fighting style.
Right. Well, and I guess that's trying to tell us, hey, that Parthian shot is actually hard, even if you were as good at this as you can be.
Yes.
Like, it's only a fighting style. Like, if you had tiers of fighting styles, then yes, you should absolutely get rid of it at some higher level. But
yeah.
But for once, they stopped only making you buy the thing once. It's a thing, man. I don't even know.
Anyway, let's move on.
But right, you've got all these different levels of weapon specialization and mastery, and just looking over it, it's daunting. It's 2 facing pages of dense text, and it's hard to see what you actually need to do here. And
I mean, and then it gives the DM the option of allowing monsters to have weapon mastery.
Well, okay. So I want to say one more thing about this. So weapon specialization. Start reading from the weapon specialization header and tell me whether you need to buy the weapon specialization class ability when you're buying your class abilities to use table 53. Because I don't know. If you're going to charge someone that many character points, I think that the least you can do is let them buy weapon specialization early and not wait until, I don't know, 5th or 6th or 7th level.
Well, look, if I'm a 7th level wizard, I'm not going to waste my time on a weapon specialization by then.
Right. I agree. So why is this here?
Because they wanted to at least give you the option, right? I mean, that's the thing, right? And if they left it out, people would have screamed, "Oh, well, how come my wizard can't get an extra weapon specialization? Maybe I have this one unique concept and I can't do it with your game now because you didn't put wizards on that table."
So basically, it's because of the Proto Pathfinder fans. That's fair. That's extremely fair, actually.
At this point in time, think about it. So this actually came. I know we're reviewing it first, but it came out a month after Combat and Tactics. So the people who are eating this up have already eaten up Combat and Tactics, right? They already are looking at all of the tables of weapons in there and the special different, feat typed, bonuses and all that kind of stuff. And they want more of that. So that's what they're getting in this, right? which is it's kind of crazy because if they're already using the one in the combat and tactics books, they don't really need this one, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing, right? It's a thing.
Well, like when we talk about, D&D is built on its optional rules, which, I mean, Lord knows it still is.
Yeah.
This book is a fine example. It's called Player's Option, but that is kind of not enough of a statement. You really kind of need a way to decide what some of these words mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably needs to be the GM.
Yeah.
Because the chapters don't really mesh together all that well. And
well, look,
you kind of need to
even
decide what's going on.
inside this chapter, it doesn't mesh well. I mean, it goes from weapon specialization and weapon mastery to talking about types of wealth and alternative forms of wealth, land holdings and debts and titles and ways to spend and save money. Like, why is that not in its own chapter?
That's extremely fair. It's still the chapter on weapon proficiency and mastery,
Right.
so sure,
Yeah.
why not?
And here's my section about entrepreneurialism and the medieval form of debtorship called scutage or what is that? I don't even know how to pronounce that.
Yeah, scutage, I think.
Scutage. Thank you.
I could be wrong.
I have no idea.
Who knows? But right, this is so. What kills me about these 2 pages is that, 3 pages is that they're kind of awesome.
They are
need to be their own chapter, but they're kind of awesome.
But then they're followed by encumbrance and movement, and we go right back into strength and weapons and how much you can carry. It's just
right, and trying to.
It's hilarious.
Well, and a optional rule set that's going to make it into a lot of D&D alikes,
right?
Like not quite clones, but things that are very much in the D&D family. This whole bulk rule, well, that is all over some
Pathfinder 2.
So you got Pathfinder 2. I think it's in Dungeon World.
Well,
it's in a bunch of OSR games.
Yeah, but the reason I'm pointing it out is because Pathfinder 2, it's several of these things that are in here, like when they talked about the 2-weapon fighting and the different disadvantages for the second attack and all that. That's Pathfinder 2. And then the bulk rating and how to do things. It's not directly carried over, obviously, but
right.
It's the idea, some things there are not a lot of ways to talk about them. And if something works, they keep using the same types of words to describe their mechanics that are just tweaked a little bit for a new edition of a game.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing to see that, actually.
Well, and there's this whole involved chart, table 55, of your base move against your encumbrance category, and oh mercy, so much nitpicking.
Well, and that's why I say to be fair, the Pathfinder 2 bulk system is much streamlined and way easier to use. It's just to
you
say that
you don't need 5 different grades of encumbrance. Mm-hmm. No one needs that. That's not doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, in a video game,
you say that. Wait.
I do say that. I mean that.
You say that, but then you're perfectly okay with strength 18 having 1801, 1801 to 025, 18 to 26 to 50, 1850. You're okay having five categories of 18.
Hang on. Me being okay with that is not how I remember that discussion going.
Okay, fair enough.
I accept that first edition and second edition did that. Yes. I did not say it was advisable. I said, if I recall correctly, that it was about rampant machismo at the table.
Yes, I agree. I just love giving you a hard time.
Yeah, it's super fair. Lord knows I deserve it. So these equipment tables are actually kind of cool too. Because it gets into what kinds of gear would have been available at in different times and places,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of
like
cool.
this section. Yeah, this section's kind of neat. Yeah.
It's a little dense and hard to extract meaning from, in fairness,
Mm-hmm.
but
Sure.
they try to get through it quickly, and I respect that.
Yeah, because this is kind of one of those things where, you know what, if somebody's not interested in Dark Ages weapons and what was available then
Yeah.
I hope you didn't spend 2 pages on it, right? Like that's
Right.
Yeah.
And then you've got, a 4-page spread. Let's see how
The
much
master equipment table.
6-page spread.
Yeah.
8-page spread of the master equipment table.
Mm-hmm.
Mercy.
But it also has, mundane equipment, not just weapons and armor. And then at the end, it splits them up into special demi-human equipment. So you get dwarven equipment and elven equipment and halfling equipment and gnomish equipment.
Yeah.
I'm laughing, but I actually I appreciate the idea of trying to give the demi-human races a slightly different flavor and culture based on the types of things they use.
Well, right, and some of that idea, if not these exact items,
Mm-hmm.
is going to come forward into 3rd edition
Sure.
in the form of the racial exotic weapons.
Right.
And I mean, those were often sort of a mess, but
Mm-hmm.
they're an interesting mess.
Right.
They're sort of a beautiful mess.
Right. But I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to look at the halfling equipment.
Yeah.
So let me show you read some of the elven equipment: elven bow, elven chain, elven harp, elven plate, fey wine, honey leather, right? And then you get to the halfling equipment. Cheesemakers equipment: sharp cheddar and mild cheddar cheese, door knockers, pipe that are self-lighting, utensils that are self-operating: a carving knife, a cooking kettle, a ladling spoon, a pouring pitcher, a roll froster, and a teapot.
I do just want to point out that I'm from the South, so I've probably been called honey leather at some point.
Too much information.
It's just Southern manners, man. Any word can follow honey lamb. Just it's all just waitresses being nice to you in diners.
Uh-huh.
That's what it is.
And if they're being patronizing and slightly condescending, it's honey child.
That's not even necessarily condescending. It's all tone. It's all tone.
It is tone. That's true. That's true.
Anyway. Oh, do I digress?
Oh, yes.
But all also, right. I love the common magic items. Those are actually really nice.
Yeah, they are. Permanently lighted gold piece. That's a nice one.
Yep. Permanently attached horseshoes.
I know, I saw that.
It just gets my back up thinking about all the GMs who would spend your time having your horse throw a shoe.
Right.
Like, that's one of the things that I've never had happen to a character I was playing. I've never had a horse or my centauric character throw a shoe, and I think that's fine.
Yes.
But it makes me laugh.
It does. That's good. Well, because, somebody had to think that up and put it on this table.
well, right. And they were like, well, so we want you to brainstorm like a list of maybe 5 to 10 just common magic items, just to show that magic is in the world, like things people sell. And they got through probably healing salve and permanently lighted gold piece and poison antidote. They're like, all right, that's 3.
Yeah.
Because I've written articles like this for Insider, and I know how hard it is sometimes to be like, but I have 500 words left in my word count, and I'd like to get paid for all of them, so I guess I need something.
I think you should definitely talk about the permanently attached horseshoes at some point then.
Right, clearly.
Okay, well, let's move on. Next chapter.
Okay,
Schools
so
of
this
Magic.
one, yeah, so this we sort of referenced when we covered the wizard
Yep.
in the last episode, but this is New Schools of Magic, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. Uh, at least on the surface, this is rad as hell.
Yeah.
I'm
I agree.
I'm all about it. I think we're going to dig down into it, and I'm going to be blinking and staring in confusion, but just on its face, adding in alchemy, geometry, shadow, and song. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, these are really a lot more like subclasses,
Hmm.
actually,
Yeah.
um, even than standard specializations, because they keep giving you stuff. They keep giving you actual features after first level in exactly the way that core specializations in the Player's Handbook don't.
Right. Right.
And that's kind of awesome and fascinating by itself. Um,
Even just the way that these schools are described are pretty cool. For example, the School of Song. It's opposed by the schools of necromancy, greater divination, invocation, evocation. Then it says magical songs are much better suited to tasks of influence, change, or summoning. All spells
yeah,
appearing in this list are considered to have neither somatic nor material components. For specialist song mages, song wizards can cast these spells with nothing more than a verbal component. Um, that's just cool. I mean,
yeah,
it's very flavorful just in those three sentences. It tells you, I mean, the schools had opposing schools and all that in second edition. So if you're not familiar with that, don't worry about it. But it's just very cool. And then the School of Shadow, it says these wizard spells, these wizards derive their energy from extraplanar connections, but spells of the School of Shadow are exclusively tied to the demiplane of Shadow. It's opposed by invocation, evocation, and abjuration, which rely on positive energy more so than the subtle pervasive power of Shadow. The spells of the School of
yeah,
Shadow are listed below, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, that's just cool. It just sounds cool. And it's not that the other sort of traditional schools of magic don't sound cool. They do, obviously. Magic users are awesome. But these four things are really well done.
yep. Uh, Now, the one that I want to toss a little bit of attention on is actually the geometer,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and uh, they're doing very much a mathematical wizardry thing
Right.
here, and that's fine. That's fine. What interests me about it is that when it shows up again in third edition, they've just completely inverted the whole concept. Um, so here it is a very scholarly and um esoteric
Mm-hmm.
sort of approach to wizardry. In third edition, it's going to show up as a very raw, ley line driven, transformative physical wizardry.
Huh.
And so the prohibited kits of Barbarian and Savage are the exact themes that fit it best in third edition because they've just completely turned it on its head.
Huh.
And so
So
that's kind of neat.
here it says the School of Geometry has both diagrams that can be drawn on the target of the spell, as well as geometrical designs that can be created through gestures. Often, the spells of this school require unusual writing implements. Those would be the material components for the spell, but generally there's no verbal component necessary. The School of
Yep.
Geometry is opposed by the schools of enchantment, charm, and illusion, which to me totally makes sense because this is a logic driven mathematical expression of using the powers of magical systems in the world.
Sure.
So it's our sort of anti-charm. It's not the, charm and illusion and enchantment. Those things rely on beguiling the target and charming them into, it's a social thing. But this is the nerd of the wizard class, right?
Right.
Which I love. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Well, and I also love how they can sort of be taken to, prefigure the rune priest in a way of fourth edition.
Yeah.
Which is one of the fourth edition classes that I find most fascinating because I saw so little of it in the edition.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always going to be into sort of calligraphy and complicated magical diagrams as a core part of the wizard's aesthetic. And so leaning way into that here makes me real happy.
Yeah.
I don't have a ton of opinions about its features because it's a lot of really dense text to get through. And
Yeah.
I'm not really sort of digesting it all right now, but it is pretty cool. But
Awesome.
But yeah, that I think brings us to the last chapter of this book, and one that, since we aren't going to go effect by effect, we can cover quite quickly.
Okay. And that chapter is, for the listening audience, Psionics. Psionics. I need to have a echo thing on my microphone.
yeah, definitely go in for some big effects there. That'd be good. So yeah, they've tried to sort of turn the whole deal of psionics around, away from the complete psionics handbook, and they've switched over to having mental AC and mental Thaco as the core dice loop of psionics, which is fine. It looks real ugly on the page because MAC and MThaco are absolute disasters of acronyms.
Masako. It's horrible.
As if Thaco weren't bad enough. Lord. And this really leans into the awfulness. Sort of within that change of the whole sort of mathematical structure of psionics, we're back to exactly what it had been doing before. You've got your 5 attacks against your 5 defenses for basic psionic combat, closed and open minds, and using psionic attacks to open a mind so that you can affect it more readily. Because the things you can actually do to a mind once you have opened it are pretty much one effect takedowns, and they didn't want to have that be the whole class, so you've got to basically break your way through someone's defenses, and then you can hit them with a one effect takedown. But you've also so you've got Thaco and M-Thaco charts and saving throw charts for the Psion Assist class.
So, you talk about the 5. So the 5 attacks are Mind Thrust, Ego Whip, Id Insinuation, Psychic Crush, and Psionic Blast. And then the defenses are Mind Blank, Thought Shield, Mental Barrier, Intellect Fortress, and Tower of Iron Will. And you use these psionic power points, or what do they call them? PSPs.
PSPs.
And you can actually have, you can have a duel of psionicists one standing on one side of the room and one standing on the other, and while all the melee, fighters and whatnot and clerics and all that are in the middle of the thick of it, the two psionicists can be on either end, and they're having this battle of wills. And you get a certain number of PSPs, right? And you can spend those to provide a psionic defense, and you can attack your opponent, and it sounds really awesome. And I'm not sure that it was really awesome at the table.
Well, so probably not. But a lot of classes, if you boil their combat loop all the way down, are not that great. The concept behind the attack versus defense thing is a rock paper scissors game where there are 25 different points on that grid, because it's not rock paper scissors, because the types of attacks are completely separate from the defenses. It's just that you each need one per round. I don't know that we ever had any straight up psionicist duels in any of the games I had that did have psionics, but people mostly wanted wild talents rather than true psionics, because why wouldn't you? It's just extra.
Can I also say that I think they made a mistake with their example? So they give this entire setup with the table and everything, and then they provide this example, and in this example they describe for example, the mind thrust attack. They describe it as a glowing sword of energy taking shape in right. So here's the example. Tilk of the Westwoods, a psionicist, decides to use the mind thrust attack against Nietzsche Nightmoon, also a psionicist. A glowing sword of energy takes shape in his psionic form's hand. The sword slashes out, but Nietzsche calls forth a thought shield, and a luminescent shield forms suddenly to block Tilk's attack. Then Nietzsche shapes her own attack, unleashing a psionicist blast. Psionic blast. Energy swells up from her nexus, forming the image of a glowing tiger. The claws of the beast slash through the maze of ruins. They made it. They provided this example with this combat imagery that just sounds like melee combat.
Well, sure, except that the idea is that it's all taking place in some kind of, mental space between the two of them, and they're sharing a visualization.
But that's not what the example says. The example says using this is just like being in melee combat.
I mean, when they say in his psionic form's hand, that's what they're trying to get at.
I understand, but to me it reads very much just like a melee combat encounter, and I feel like it's a missed opportunity to sort of explore the awesomeness that you could get with a psionic battle.
Right, and honestly, it makes them sound like hackers in a mid-90s movie to me.
Yes.
Just throwing that out there.
Yes. All they need to do is talk about the 5 1/4-inch floppy disk, and there you go.
Right. Yeah, I'm down.
Anyway, that's really a nitpick. I just feel like of all the things, they're trying to make this really cool in this system with these psionic points and these defenses, and you have to try to guess what kind of attack they're going to do, and you pick the right defense, and that can be really dynamic, but then they describe it more like a melee battle, and it just lost its, for me personally, it just kind of lost its intrigue,
That's fair. I think that you're doing pretty well if the rulebook remembers to describe an actual melee combat as interestingly as that, which mostly it doesn't.
You have a good point, sir. Yes, that is actually true. You're right.
I don't want to be too unkind here, but
yeah. What else about the psionicist? Anything in there that you particularly enjoy that you want to bring up, or?
Yeah, just a reminder of how they haven't integrated this with the rest of the book. Just throwing that out there. Can you? Well, so The non-weapon proficiencies of the Psionicist group are sold in slots, not character points. You can't buy different Psionicist abilities with character points. We don't know how many character points they get for weapon proficiencies. Just not covered. So this chapter was not written in concert with any of the rest of this book. We can pretty much say that definitely.
Here's my question for you. Did you play a lot of Dark Sun in the second edition days?
I didn't, and I regret that.
I'm just curious if this kind of because they put out the first Dark Sun box set, and then they did a revised edition, and I can't remember the timing on that. Personally, I can't remember the timing on that. So I was curious if the second revised Dark Sun box set used this Psionics rule set.
It does, as I happen to know. I had a friend who was getting rid of his whole Dark Sun collection, and he had, I believe, pretty close to an exhaustive Dark Sun collection from second ed. And so he gave it to me for a song.
Nice.
So, from the time I read through it, yeah, absolutely. It uses MTHACO and the whole works. Yeah. What can you say?
Not much.
So you get wild talents all over again. And the whole approach to calculating wild talents is just precisely calculated to drive me as insane as possible.
Yeah.
It makes me so mad because it's such a case of, well, if you're already basically a demigod, then here's some extra crap.
Yeah. Right.
Because if your ability scores are already through the friggin' roof and you're pretty much set for life, well, now we're going to make sure it's a little bit better. Come on. And it doesn't make sure it's a little bit better, but it certainly tilts the odds in your favor. So each wisdom, con, or int score of 18 or better is 3 percentage points more likely that you are to have a wild talent. And then 17s are worth +2 each, 16s are worth +1% each. I'm sort of perplexed about the character's 5th to 8th level, character's 9th level or higher adjustment. I sort of don't know. I guess that has to do with psychic surgery, but this is a really lovely place where your character can become unplayable during character creation. I think that's extremely good, and definitely the lesson we should have taken from Original Traveler.
Yes. Except
so the
quickly
thing is,
creating a character in Classic Traveler and then accidentally having it die after 15 minutes is way more fun than trying to parse through all this Psionicist crap. Oh, I mean, did I say that out loud?
That's
I'm not a fan of this Psionicist, in case you haven't figured that out.
Go on.
This wild talent thing is yeah.
I'm just gonna say, Sam, how can you say something so controversial yet so brave?
It just, whatever. Because it's almost midnight.
You just go forward picturing me saying that meme to you in radio. It's happening. All right. So what gets me is like the other half of this badness is that a really low roll gives you the moon and the stars, and the ridiculousness of what you can get is just out of control. Right. I mean, telekinesis, death field. I mean, I'm not looking at what that does. Look up what that does, but I don't care right now. Teleport, sure. This is fine. Yeah. This is fine. A really bad roll again, this is at character creation. If the result is 100, the character must save versus death at -5, or his wisdom, intelligence, and charisma scores are all permanently reduced to 3 points.
Right.
Cool.
Which means
that's extremely good.
They're useless. Yeah.
Which means you are getting nowhere, friend. Oh, that is horrible. And so just we can talk all day about how design aesthetics have changed, but man, anyone should have been able to look at the time and look at it, in 1995 and say, this is not going to have the effects we want at the table.
Yeah.
I assume, though, that actually no one ever did roll 96 through 100 over the course of hundreds of thousands of rolls because they just cheated.
Yeah.
That's what
they just rolled again. Right.
So readers and listeners out there, please, I want to know if you, in second edition, rolled on the Wild Talent table and rolled a score of 96 to 100, did you in fact suffer that effect on your character, possibly ending their playability as a character forever? Or did you ignore that result and do something else? I want to know. Please tell me.
I don't think we're going to get any responses to your question.
Please send all emails to Sam Dillon's email address.
One thing I love about this is they name the major powers sciences and the minor powers devotions. Yep. Like, what the? Where did that? Like, I know that has.
It absolutely comes from the complete Psionics handbook. I was going to say
it has a deeper root, but it's just it's just funny for me to see it again. It's been a long time since I've looked at second edition Psionics or third edition Psionics.
Yeah. So the rest of the book, other than the appendix, the index and such, is just psionic powers, and we don't need to go through each one.
Right.
Their effect has not substantially changed since the complete Psionics handbook. They're just sort of rejiggering all the numbers to fit into power, MAC, and such.
They, to their credit, they tried to finish up this section with a sort of overarching table of all the powers in the appropriate groups and whatnot, with their costs and their MAC. And then there's a nice big old appendix at the back of this book that has pretty much every table in the book reprinted.
Yep.
Which
compiled tables.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I understand why they did it. I think.
Well, the book's basic navigability for all of these tables is not great.
Right. Yeah.
So compiling the tables is a pretty fair use of those last few pages, though if skimming through these pages doesn't show you that maybe the whole thing's a little too table driven, I don't know what would.
How can you say something so controversial and just then move on?
Well, because it's get a little late out here, and we got to wrap this episode, man. So
yes, it is. This is the longest one, but that's because this is the last Skills and Powers episode in the 12 days of D&D Christmas. So, what are we talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to jump into combat and tactics.
Nice. And we're going to spend 3 episodes on that. And then we're going to spend 3 episodes on the third book, which is Spells and Magic. And then we're going to spend 3 episodes on the DM's option, High Level Campaign.
That is the one I'm most excited about.